Welcome everybody. We are excited to be back for our third edition of our Get Schooled by Flex webinars. We have gotten a lot of great feedback from customers and are excited to continue on with this process. The topic that we're going to discuss today is free pick containers, and the reason we went over that is we've done lots of work in the previous seminars on virtual items, virtual packages, storage containers, and packages. And so this free pick container is taking some of these storage containers and putting them onto quotes and putting things inside of them that aren't already inside of it. So there are three different types of free pick containers that we can create. So the first type that we can create, if I go down on our QA system under cases, I made an item called shipping case A size. And this was a specific type of case that we had in an inventory item when I used to work at a production house. That was a third size truck pack. And this was just a generic case that we would go and grab stuff and put stuff inside of. And so we had specific cases for all these items. And if we hit edit inventory item, this was just tracked by serial number and was a free pick container. So in general, nothing was picked, put ahead of time in these. These were just empty cases that we would go and grab stuff inside and scan inside of. So the way this would work is if we had inventory on a pull sheet, we would scan this item and then put everything else inside of it. So that's a very generic shipping case that is tracked by serial number. Each case has its own barcode. You can also add a stencil here. In the production industry, a lot of companies have case stencils on the outside so that they can say, go grab case A8 and that has all my feeder in it maybe. So that's what we use stencils for. And we'll show you a new feature that was just added in recent days with the ability to in the manifest while you're scanning stuff out to be able to update that stencil right there. Oh, sorry, screen sharing is paused. I apologize. It is unpaused now. Okay, so to reiterate, back to inventory item. On the structure and availability, tracked by serial number is yes. Free pick container is yes. And so serialized items for the barcode. We have a stencil for some of our items. Some do not have stencils. So generic shipping cases. So there are other types of items, and what a free pick container is used for is when we scan it in the pull sheet, when we're prepping our pull sheet, that we want to add stuff inside of it. So a shipping case, of course, is a really great example of this. Let's look at some of the different items that we worked on previously and how those could be used with free pick container scenarios also. If we go to our JBL line array amp rack, and previously we had this item set up as a serialized package. So let's hit edit inventory item. And we told it was tracked by serial number. We wanted to add a couple new settings to this and walk you through how those affect it. We're going to add contents to the model, contents to the unit. The contents are not going to be available, so the amplifiers that we put inside this, we're going to take them out of availability. So if our account managers try to schedule amps on a quote separately outside of the package, they won't show as available. And we're also going to make this a free pick container. So let's take a look at how those settings affect this item. With the model contents is yes, there is now a contents for the model. And I look at these items as accessories. What else needs to go with this item to make it functional? What I did earlier was drag and drop in an L2130 power cable into that. So anytime we put this on a quote, it's going to enter in as a child element. And this is something that the warehouse people just need to make sure goes out with this amp rack every single time. If we go to the serial numbers and we open up a specific serial number, again, these are the unit contents. So these are the 4 very specific amplifiers that we have put inside here. We have marked them as permanent, and so when we scan this one item out, it'll put all these items on here. And so if we go to the pull sheet that we're going to be working on today, we drag and drop the model JBL line array amp rack. It contains this L2130 power cable, and so the theory goes that when we scan out the specific barcode, it will say we prepped a JBL line array amp rack. It'll automatically put the amplifiers, and because we're in free pick mode, we'll then be able to then go and scan the secondary accessory inside this amp rack and then close it back up. So on the manifest, in theory, we should see the JBL line array amp rack with the specific barcode, the 4 amplifiers, and the power cable all contained inside the specific case. So that's the scenario for that one. So that's a serialized package that we're going to turn into a free pick container also. We have also added some Verilight 2500 spots on this job. And as we talked about earlier with containers, we created a dual Verilight VL2500 spot case. The settings for this item are very similar to the JBL amp rack, tracked by serial number. We're not saying that this needs to come with any accessories. We're just going to package it ahead of time. We're going to be able to add very specific items inside each case. Those contents are going to be slightly different, meaning they are going to show as available, meaning our account managers are going to be scheduling those very specific VL2500s. They're not in general scheduling the case. And what we're saying here is when we scan this case, sometimes we want to be able to add other things inside of this case. So as an example, on this pull sheet, when we dragged and dropped in the VL2500s, we asked, do you want to include any 10-foot DMX cables, and do you want any L620 power cables to go with it? And we said yes on both of those items. So maybe this is a dry hire where someone's coming to pick up some spots, a little bit of DMX and power cable to get them connected. And so what we're going to do is when we scan the case, it should mark both of these 2 items as prepped because we already put them inside, and I'll show you that. And then we're also going to be able to add the secondary item into it because it's a free pick container. So let's go back to our dual Verilight case. In this item, we talked about it earlier, where we were able to put in these very specific lights ahead of time in the prep process. And we already put, these always contain some 5-pin DMX cable inside of it. So we've already prepped this item. So let's continue on with the process, and we're ready to get started. So this is our pull sheet. We need an amp rack with a power cable. We want to add some NL8 speaker cable that we're going to put in a generic free pick container. And then we're also going to scan out the case for the VL2500s and add the secondary item inside of it. So when we go to our prep screen, we are now ready to get to work. And so the first item that we want to scan, oh, it already marked this prep. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to create a new. I copied this and I didn't realize that I'd already scanned that item out. So new test, and we're going to send this out tomorrow, and it's going to come back tomorrow, and we'll hit accept. Okay, we are going to go up and add our JBL line array amp rack. We need one of those. It contains the power cable. We are going to add some speak-on cable. That is not part of the package. We're going to put that in just a generic free pick container. And then we're going to go to our lights and add in 2 of these lights. And we're going to add that and power cable also. It's going to say I want to put it in as a child element, and that's fine. We can also drag and drop and move it outside the child if we wish to. Okay. And we are going to get to work and start scanning this gear out. So we're going to go to our prep screen. And let's scan out a amp rack. Oops. Try that one more time. 02023.
Free pick container opened.
Okay. So what we've done here is we've scanned out this amplifier. So we have asked for a generic amplifier to be prepped. And on the manifest, we put this very specific amp rack on it with these 4 very specific amplifiers. And now we are in container builder mode. We're ready to add more stuff to it. And remember, we said earlier on that anytime this goes out, this accessory must be included. And so we can open up, say, the back of the amp, make sure it's got this power cable. I can double click on this item and free scan it in, or virtually scan it in. It's a generic item without a barcode for each power cable, so we're just going to say we're going to enter one of these, hit accept. And so now we can either hit close container or we can scan the case a second time to close it back up. So we're going to close it back up. And so it's been sealed. Now, earlier we used to have to get a pop-up that said, hey, are you sure you want to enter free pick mode? And so we've been requested by specific clients to start to remove some of these pop-ups. So let me show you where that setting is. Under Inventory, Inventory Settings, there is now a new version that says, do free pick prompts enabled, yes or no? So right now, we've selected free pick prompts to no, so we didn't get that pop-up. So let's go back and look at our manifest, and our manifest shows the amp, or the amp rack, the 4 amplifiers, and the power cable that we put inside of it. So this item, because it was a free pick container, we were able to put this item inside it on the manifest. Second, let's go and do our free pick container on just a generic free pick container. So I'm going to scan 07221.
Free pick container opened.
So this is that generic shipping case, and it is Stencil A5. I can double click these items, say we're going to put one speak-on cable in there, put another one in there. Let's look at our manifest. That's what's inside the JBL amp rack. This is what's inside shipping case A5. And again, we can either close the case or scan it again. And we've closed it back up. We've got a question here from asking why didn't the audio prompt play? I'll have to check into that to see why on the close it didn't play. I'll verify that later on. So this was a serialized package that was a free pick container. we put the NL8 into just a free pick container. And finally, we've got this storage container that's not on the quote. And let's go and scan out that item. 07544.
Free pick container opened.
So this case, again, we prepped ahead of time, and it contained 2 of these Verilite 2500s, and it already contained the 2 5-pin DMX 10-foot cables that are already on the manifest. And again, we're in scanner container mode, and we're ready to add. We're going to go to the wall, grab our L620 power cable. We're going to scan 2 of those. And we can either hit close container or scan the case again and close it back up. So there's our manifest. Those are the 3 free pick containers that we put stuff inside of. This one was a package, this one was a standard free pick container, and this was a storage container. So the goal here is to be able to create a little bit more efficiency in the system, less user interaction with the screen to hopefully allow quick adding of these free pick containers. So we talked about earlier, someone asked for the ability to overwrite very specific stencils. So the scenario for this was we had a company who does not use stencils on cases pre-configured. But when they go out on tours, they put stencils on each case that says this is SR01, meaning this amp rack goes on stage left and it's number 1, and SR02 and SR03. So when the local laborer is pushing it in, they know where exactly to push it. So if we right click on this, we have a new option here to override existing stencil. And so we could add in this stencil right here and hit accept. So that will override that stencil to allow them to write what they want the stencil to be when it goes out on this current show. Then finally, if we go back to some of these items, we'll show you what happens when it comes back. Let's go back to this amp rack. And on this particular item that we scanned out, it's out on new test. And these particular amplifiers, we told that they are permanent items. Now on the dual Verilite case, if we opened up the item that we scanned out, that's on new test. If we mark these as non-permanent, meaning when they come back, I want to remove them out of the case, so automatically clear them out when they go out or when they come back in, because we always know the spots will never come back in the same case they go out unless they go out as one case on one show. That's probably the only way that'll ever happen. So let's go back to our warehouse and just do some free scanning in. And I can go in and start to scan some gear in. Let's scan amp rack. My scanner's not working again today. I will have to get that checked. So 02023. We scanned in this item. We're going to scan in the next item. 02020. Oops. Sorry, 02020. And then let's go and scan in the shipping case, 07544. That's the case. And let's start to scan in 07498 and 07499. So if we go back and look at these individual items, because those were marked as non-permanent and we free scan them in, they're back in the warehouse, and they're out of the case. So we can go back in to start to rebuild them now. And let's go back and look at the actual other item to make sure that they're back in, 07499. So its current location is at Flex, Utah, so it got returned appropriately. We can do the exact same thing with the free scan in for the non-serialized items, 00041. Because this item is non-serialized, it doesn't know exactly which job it came from. So this was our two 10-foot DMX cables. If I select this item, hit quantity 2, we're returning those two to go with it. And let's go back to this case, to the contents. So these have been removed and it's ready to be rebuilt. If we go back to the amp rack, because they are permanent, these are still, I returned this top one, 02020, but it's permanent, so it's still inside the case. So that permanent checkbox will basically allow you to, if you're returning items and you don't want them to return back into the case, you can use this top permanent to uncheck them all or uncheck individual items. So as you're building these items, you can uncheck or leave them checked. By default, it puts them in as permanent. One of the features we're hoping to add in the future is for a JBL line or an amp rack, whether we want this to always be permanent by default, or for maybe the dual Verilight VL2500 spot cases, whether we want these contained items to default to non-permanent. Okay, we've got a couple questions here, and I'm going to scroll up to, let me expand this. Okay, let's see, I'm going to, can we change the default for adding to a container to temporary instead of permanent? So that's the feature that we're looking to add in the near future for the model, the container item, whether we want them to be permanent or not. That is a future feature release. What is the magic setting to allow amp racks to be checked in as a whole with a single scan? If we go to Projects, Project Elements, you'd have to have System Admin Settings. Under Manifests, so when we are returning these items, there is a setting for each warehouse mode, whether you want the auto scan to be enabled, yes or no. So if we go to Shipping and Receiving, on the return, right now I have Container Auto Scan enabled is no, meaning I want to check every single item in to make sure it all came in. If we put the Container Auto Scan is yes, which we have on the pull sheet, so let's go to Projects, Project Elements, Pull Sheets, and we're going to go to Shipping Receiving tab. And right here for the prep, we have it set to Container Auto Scan enabled yes, meaning by default, when we prep this, automatically scan all the contents in. So if I go back to that manifest and change Container Auto Scan enabled on the return, then it would have auto scanned everything in. So that's just a setting. I believe by default, we start most of our clients out with prep is yes and return is no. But that can be changed at any point in time. It does not retroactively go back and return anything. It is just a setting for future, anything done in the future. Okay, let's go down and look at some more questions real quick. Can you explain the options for when items are removed from containers? I believe we got that correct. Okay. How does it know which storage container the NS items belong to? Non-serialized items. Okay, so if you're asking on the free scan in how that works, if I understand that correctly. So if we go back to our free scan in here, and earlier we scanned out this L2130 power cable, and we have not auto scanned it in. So if I go and scan 00110, which is the barcode for the whole model, what it will do is it will go and find all the items that are out. So we've got a fairly long list of all these jobs have manifests that are waiting the return of this item. And we can make an assumption that says, well, everything else that we've been scanning in has come back from this job called new test. So I'm going to select this item, mark 1 as we're returning this one item, and hit accept. So now if we go to warehouse, return manifest, and there's our new test. These are all the items that have been scanned in so far. So we scanned in each one of these individually. Those were serialized. This was non-serialized. And so that's what we've received so far. Okay. So the question was if there are multiple instances of the same item in multiple storage containers. So his question, if I understand it correctly, was maybe we had 2 JBL amp racks and each one of them had their own L2130. If I understand the logic in the system, we just scan in the first item that it sees on the list. It just goes vertically by priority. If we wanted to return a very specific cable to a very specific amp rack, we would probably not want to use the free scan in, but more than likely we would want to go to the return manifest itself so we could scan in these items individually. But we may need to look at edge case scenarios on being able to suggest or notify which amp rack are you returning it from. We don't support that feature as of yet, but any polishing that we can make to make your lives easier would help you. Let's look at that feature in the future. Let's see. In the new update to Content Builder, not having to confirm each item is nice, but now the barcode box loses focus after each scan. That may be a function of programming your barcode scanner. There is we programmed the barcode scanner to have a specific prefix. So if we were scanning out 02021, we program a prefix which is Shift 6. So you can also recreate that virtually. If I go and hit Shift 6, it automatically puts me into this this barcode scanning field. So Chase, let us know, send us an email, and we'll check with you to make sure your scanner got programmed. So if I type in 02021, mark that item as in. So the question was, can I scan an item into a free pick container once it had already been scanned into the manifest? Well, the way that we could do that is, let's go back to our prep screen and let's scan another item. Let's scan some more speak-on cables, and let's not be in prep mode. And we're going to scan some 25 footers. I'm just going to get the barcode for that item, 03162. Okay, we'll go to prep. I'm going to unfinalize this. I'm going to scan an item. It's not on the pull sheet, so it's going to say, hey, it's not on the list, but there are 32 available. How many are you going to add? I'm going to add 2 of these. And let's go back to the manifest. So right now we've got these child or this parent list NL8 speak-on cable. that we forgot to put in to the case. It looks like we've already returned it. But you can scan and move these in using this item to move them into the specific place that you want them to. So once you scan it, you can move it around after the fact. So that happens all the time where I scan the item, I scan the case, you can just click, drag, and drop and move it back to where you want it to go. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong job. That was my problem. I wanted to do it on this job, sorry. So let's add that one more time and show you that. So adding 2 of these items to that job. On the manifest, we can click, drag, and drop and move it into there. So now it is inside that case. Remember, with these, we've got some great reports. I can print specific container reports for these jobs and print out a specific PDF to say I want to put this, and that could go on the outside of the case. And then we can also print full reports on all of our different containers. Are there plans to implement the form in the near future? Yep, we are looking to implement a user form. Been a little bit behind on default or normal support, so it is on our plans to implement in the very near future. Well, with that wraps us up on a lot of our inventory settings for the specialized items. If you've got any specific questions on these items, please send your questions to support@flexrentalsolutions.com. We'll return those support questions as soon as we can. We'll also be posting these webinars up to our website. If you go to our YouTube page and go to youtube.com/flexrentalsolutions, you'll see all our different how-to videos and our different webinar postings. We hope to have this up today, and we thank you for all your support, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.